What's new, pussycat? Welcome to my channel. My name's Emma Cownley. I'm a freelance copywriter and blogger, and today I'm making Scandinavian knitwear work for me. Seriously though, today we're talking about using AI software to help further your copywriting skills. Now, I'm not one to jump on the bandwagon. Usually I'm the person walking alongside the bandwagon, making fun of the people who are on the bandwagon. That's more my vibe. But sooner or later I was going to have to address the thorny issue of ChatGPT. And yeah, it really grates. It really goes against my my natural inclinations. But LinkedIn, Twitter, every professional platform that's got copywriters on it, people are talking about chat AI and whether or not it's going to steal our jobs and, you know, how it works and whatnot. So I thought I would take you through the methods I have been using to incorporate ChatGPT into my copywriting tools arsenal, but also other AI software that I have been using and do frequently use as part of my freelance business, just so that you can get a picture of how to work alongside AI and adapt to using the software to actually be better at what you do, to sound off creative ideas, and to just find new sources of inspiration and new challenges for yourself in your career. Because from what I've seen, the robots definitely aren't going to take our jobs. And I'll tell you why a little bit later. Before I get into all that good shit, let's do the housekeeping, shall we? Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Leave a comment, chat with me in the comments below. I fucking love that shit. Love seeing what you guys are up to and hearing what your opinions are. If you use AI in your freelance business, fucking drop me a comment below, mate. Tell me all about it. I want to hear that shit. Share this video with anyone that you think, you know, might dig it. And if you really are feeling saucy, you can leave me a donation on Ko-fi. It's very much appreciated. Also, one last thing, I promise. I'm on TikTok now. That's right, I'm on TikTok. I'm giving it a go. I'm seeing what it's all about. So if you really enjoy this content, sassy little quick snippets of tips and advice from me, and if you love stationery, Filofax content and all that good shit, well then that's where you're going to find me, mate. I'm over there. I'm sorry, there is a bird fight going on outside my window. My neighbours have put up 5 bird feeders right next to my garden fence, which is in direct violation of the fact that I already have bird feeders in my garden. They are, number one, taking my birds. My garden children are choosing to go over there. But now they're all fighting over these other feeders. And quite frankly, like, I'm not about that life. Pack it in! Let's get into the video, shall we? Fuck's sake. Let's start nice and easy with my good old, trusty, reliable favourite tool, CoSchedule. CoSchedule make a tool for email subject line testing and headline testing. Now, I'm not 100% sure if it actually uses AI, I'm going to be real with you, but long story short, it is a tool I use, it is free, and it does help me improve my craft. So I'm going to fucking tell you about it anyway, even if it's not AI. I think it uses AI, or at least machine learning, but for argument's sake, let's pretend it does. Don't come for me in the comments of my own video saying that's not AI. So what you do basically is plug in your headline, plug in your subject line, whatever it is you're working on, click score it, and it will come up with scores based on historic data, to the best of my knowledge, and will give you a grade for your copy. I think it's out of 100. I don't think I've ever scored higher than 90. Which is saying something, but it will also break down the criteria for what makes a good subject line and what makes a good headline. Have you used any powerful words? Have you used any emojis in the case of subject lines, for example? Have you used any unusual words? And then in the case of the headline, it will actually break down the headline. This is what it's about. You know, this is the subject and stuff, so that you can see if you've got it kind of turned around arse backwards and you're writing the headline and the bit that it's identified as being the subject is not correct, well then you need to rewrite that bitch. And what I like to do is kind of write my copy do a couple of headline options, and then at the end I'll go through, start plugging them in, and if they're not scoring, I start tinkering and tinkering and tinkering, trying to kind of get a better score until I have a really good subject line or headline that I can go forward with. Now, as with all software of this nature, it comes with a caveat. So if you've got access to the client's back end of their website or their MailChimp or whatever it is that you're working with, and you can historically see physically with your eyes a trend that is taking place across the headlines, across the subject lines, certain formats are getting higher clicks than others, well then those are the ones that you want to be building off of. So for example, I had one particular client that I regularly wrote email newsletters for, and I could see on MailChimp that whenever I was using the company founder's name in the subject line, and I was saying, oh, he says this, come and listen to so and so as he tells you about this, those clicks would go cuckoo bananas. But CoSchedule didn't seem to think those emails would score very highly. My knowledge of the client and the reader was superior to what the software was telling me, so I would overrule it in that case, just make sure that the score was vaguely okay according to the software, but mostly following the conventions for the client that I know are actually effective. So that's a little caveat. Use your common sense. You know how to be a writer because you are a writer, and you know your client and the readership better than the software does. So push comes to shove, choose your own knowledge over the software. The software is more of a helping hand or a guide to help get you on your way. So that is CoSchedule headline and CoSchedule subject line software for you there. The next piece of software is one of my all-time favorite pieces of software that I've ever started using for my business, and that is Otter AI. I don't know if it's called Otter AI or if it's just called Otter. Editing Emma here. After digging around on the website, it looks like it's just Otter, but they also use Otter AI sometimes. So it's relatively inconsistent, but I think it's Otter. This video is turning out to be not very good, right? Because I actually don't know shit about technology. And actually, that's how you know that these pieces of software are good, because I suck at technology. So if I'm using this consistently without any problems and actually finding it helpful, that's how you know. That's how you know. So Otter, or Otter AI, whatever the fuck it is a transcription software. So what you do is you turn that shit on, or you plug it into your Zoom or whatever, and it will take notes for you during your client calls and your interviews and whatnot. It will actually have the recording within it, but it will also transcribe it, and it will identify the different speakers and color code them for you, so you can go back through into the transcript, highlight things, pull out chunks of text, and be able to click it and listen back to what it is, because sometimes the software is not so good, especially if somebody has a very strong accent or a regional UK accent. The AI doesn't really seem to understand it fully, and sometimes the things that it thinks you're saying are fucking hilarious. Case in point, you don't have to re-listen to an interview over and over and over again to transcribe it. You can actually just pull the text out verbatim from the software. Another good use that I've done for this is I do several event write-ups for some of my clients. They will record an event that they're putting onto their YouTube channel and people are attending digitally, and afterwards they want me to publish an event summary for that particular event that they did. So I just take the YouTube URL, download that shit, plug it into Otter. Otter will transcribe the entire event for me, and I can go and pull out chunks. It even kind of picks out the main themes and structures it down the side, and it has saved me so much time. It's unreal. It also means that you're never misquoting anybody, and that you actually have verifiable evidence that so-and-so said whatever after a client call. Not that you would ever need to use that, but let's pretend for a second that you did. You've got that. So I basically use Otter for everything. I use it when I'm having client meetings, because if I'm spending all my time frantically taking notes, I'm not 100% listening to what the client's saying, and I'm not 100% engaged in the conversation. I'm not thinking, oh shit, I need to ask a question about that because I'm not quite 100% sure what you mean. I'm thinking I need to write this shit down as quickly as possible so that I can refer back to it later on when I'm actually doing this job. And that's not very helpful or very good. And sometimes I'm in such a rush to write those notes, they don't make any sense. So I come to sit down and write the piece and I'm like, what the fuck does that mean? Was I on crack when I wrote these notes? So Otter's really good for that, not to mention the interview quality. I find that my interviews are much higher quality now that I'm using Otter, just because I'm able to be present in the conversation. I'm able to give that eye contact rather than taking notes. I'm able to probe the question and actually have a connection, and you'll find that interviewees open up a lot more when they've got that eye contact. They can see you're engaged and you're having a conversation. So it's really upped my interview game, and it's made my job feel a lot quicker and a lot more pleasant. And finally, ChatGPT. Now, full disclosure, I had not touched ChatGPT until Christmas. I was attending a Zoom Christmas party with my mastermind group, and my freelance colleague Andre Spiteri mentioned that he had been using the software to kind of brainstorm and check his work, and he was telling me about all of these different ways that he'd been using the software, and I was like, okay, this is compelling. I think I can get behind this. So I started to toy around with it myself. And in recent weeks, I've actually seen quite a fair few of my contemporaries sharing their thoughts on it and how they've been using it. I'll leave some links in the comments below, but the examples that stuck out most to me was Louise Shanahan, by way of Anne Handley, and Mel Barfield, who went through how she uses the tool to brainstorm while she's working. And that is also how I've been using it. So I was like, great, I'm on the right track. That's how I know this video needs to get made. So the first use case for ChatGPT is as an inspirational springboard. So for example, when I'm writing headlines, or most notably, when I'm writing greeting cards, the front cover of greeting cards, I used to go to Google, type in whatever it was, the holiday occasion or whatever it was, and just see an entire list of greeting cards and images. I'd go to Pinterest and have a look at images associated with what I was trying to write about, and really kind of get my inspiration that way, looking at those images, looking at those greeting cards, looking at the words and phrases that were coming up on Google would help to trigger my creative brain. And from those, I would kind of build a brainstorm and like an idea map, and then I would start to come up with my own things, and that it was helping me to make those creative connections, right? Well, nowadays I can go on to chat and say, give me some phrases to do with swimming, and the chat will just mine the entire internet and, you know, drawing on a massive database of everything that it's learned and everything that it can see online, and will spit up like tons and tons and tons of examples. So you just in one place, no need to surf around and visit lots of different places and kind of move about a bit transiently online. It's just giving you tons and tons of information. And then you can look at the answers and be like, can I have something more edgy? Can I have something more punchy? Can I have something a bit more exciting? How would a child say that? How would a blah, 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 blah? And then it's kind of spitting out ideas upon ideas that you can kind of take, and they trigger something in your mind, and you can start using them as building blocks for your own copy. Tangent to that is also an alternative thesaurus. So I use thesaurus.com and I use an actual thesaurus, but sometimes I need more, and I know the ballpark that I'm in. Do you know what I mean? When you're searching for a word that needs a certain essence, and you're like, it needs to do this, but it needs to feel like this. I know you know what I mean. You're a writer. You know what I'm talking about. Don't make me feel crazy. So I go on there and I'm like, what is another word for innovation? And it will give me a ton of different words. And I'll be like, what's another word for innovation that's sexy? What's another word for innovation that is slightly aggressive? And it will start to kind of toy around and reframe so that you've got a lot more words to choose from so that you can find the exact one. And here's the thing. I know it seems like the software is doing the heavy lifting, but it's not. You as the copywriter have the knowledge and the discerning eye to determine which of those words is the perfect fit for the context and the voice and the client, right? So you are being offered an array of words that you can cherry pick from, rather than having to kind of go on a meandering journey to find that in a more analog way. Fact checking and gauging accuracy. This is one of Andre's big ones that he told me about, and I thought it was very compelling. So when I'm writing for a sector that I'm not 100% familiar with, and I've done my research online, and I've finished the first draft of the copy, and I've given it all the checks, and I'm feeling kind of good about it, I'm going to plug all of that copy into chat, and I'm going to say, is this factually accurate? And the chat will spit back a load of ideas as to whether or not it's accurate, how you could make it more accurate, and anything that might be a grey area in your copy. You can also plug it in and say, is this unbiased, for example, and it will come back and tell you whether or not you've used any language which indicates a certain bias. So you can really make sure that your copy is serving the purpose and is accurate according to the software. Again, using your own noggin as to whether or not that actually is true and actually does work. And finally, it's really good for giving a second opinion and bouncing ideas off of. So I'll plug in the first paragraph of a blog post and I'll say, is this compelling? Is this grabby? Is this engaging? How can I make it more catchy, hooky? And it will come back and say, well, you could do this, you could do that, you could do this. And then you're free to go through the bullet point list of recommendations and choose what you think actually is going to work for this piece. And it's really nice because it's giving you that creative feedback from an objective, unbiased kind of place. And you're free to accept or reject those recommendations as you see fit. And also, it's going to kind of recommend things that you hadn't considered. And I think that's really important. Also, a lot of us writers work under NDA, right? So we can't go to our community and say, how could I improve this writing? It's good, but it's not quite there. What's missing? Because you're not allowed to fucking share that work. So it's nice to have that tool there in the background for that sensitive stuff so that you can get the feedback you need for those drafts without necessarily breaching your agreement. Although whether or not this software is actually stealing your copy and taking your ideas is another thing. I mean, it's something we've got to think about, but really, fucking hell. Sometimes the recommendations that it gives will actually trigger a new idea, or it will press on an insecurity that you already had about that copy, and you know, okay, well, it does need to change. Then it's not just me getting into my own head about this. It actually does need to change. And that's really useful. Final points. Do I think that ChatGPT and other AI software is going to steal our jobs? I mean, let's think about it. In theory, not even in theory, actually this could happen. A client could just go to chat and say, write me a 1,000 word blog post about aerospace sexism. And chat would do it. And it would be a fairly good piece of writing. All the writing that it spat out for me has been good. It's good. But it is really fucking generic. Like, forgettably generic. They've used every cliche because it's AI. It's taking what it sees and using it. So the copy is not going to be memorable. It's not going to be different and engaging. There's not going to be anything special about it. It sounds like everything else on the internet. Really fucking basic. And if somebody's just in it for content to get SEO and they don't actually care about any new ideas or lasting impressions, well, then chat's going to be fine for them. If they've got really fucking basic needs and they don't care about actual good writing, then fair enough. But for example, I've been saying, oh, give me a strapline for a blah, blah, blah business. and everything that chat spat out was generic as fuck. Forgettable. Like, basic ass bitch businesses will be happy with that. But anyone who wants to carve out a niche in their market and sound genuinely different isn't going to want to use anything that AI spits out. You need a creative mind to take that and build on it, or to find the human experience within it, or something completely off the wall, unique, something that no one would ever see coming. Only a human at this point could do that. Also, chat is just a tool, right? You have to know what to put into it to get out anything that's going to be of value. So for example, if I'm saying write a strapline for a blacksmith business, it's going to give me a bunch of generic shit. So what if I'm saying, make it unexpected, make it occult, make it dark Norse, make it gritty. And what happens if we do this? Okay, and now do it a bit more like that, and now do it a bit more like this. Because I intrinsically am able to grasp the concept within that brand and understand what the good copy looks like, what the good ideas look like, what the right words are. Chat can't do that. That's me, right? I have to know what to put into it to get the good stuff out. So there's that to consider as well. Any basic bitch business owner could use this to be basic. They can't use it to be great. And that's what I think about AI. I felt like I got really passionate there. It's a bit of a manic day. You can tell I've got manic energy going on. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Do you use AI for your freelance business? Have you used ChatGPT? Are you sick of ChatGPT? I low-key am, which is why I've been putting off making this video. Should have made it a long time ago. This is kind of old hat now, I do apologise. Sound off in the comments below and let me know what you think. And while you're doing that, I guess I'll be over here making TikToks and planning a video for 2 weeks' time. Thanks for watching, guys. Take care and peace out.